Hi, I'm Lance Schwartz, and I'm with ATVscene.com, and we're here to talk a little bit about our project, Suzuki King Quad, which we've dubbed King Kong. I think that you'll agree when we're done talking about this thing that we've got the baddest Suzuki King Quad on the planet. We have a lot of manufacturer support that have come in and helped us put this thing together. And I want to start from the front, move backward, and talk about each individual part and why we chose to use it. But before I do that, I actually want to start right here. And you see that I used a permanent marker and put these guys' name on here. They didn't have any stickers to give us, but without their help, I don't know that we'd have gotten this machine together. It's atv.dnsalias.com, and a guy by the name that goes by the name of Nyrock runs this site. It's not your typical ATV site where you're getting bogus information. It actually is a site where there are enthusiasts that really know what they're talking about. And we had a few issues in building this. I went to these guys because I knew there were people that knew the answer, and they hooked us up with the right answer, and they were spot on. And that's where we met the builder of this bumper. This is JRZ Fabricating put this bumper together. I believe there are 37 different pieces that are TIG welded together and built on a jig. The thing is spot on. You don't have to tweak it left or right to get it to work. It is super tough. And I think we can almost hit just about anything. If we ruin that bumper, I don't think we're going to be able to continue on. So kudos to Jer from JRZ Fabricating that put this thing together. He's also responsible for these cool bullet LEDs. If I turn the switch on here just a second, you'll see it light up, and of course at night it's a little bit more pronounced, but if you're standing back you can actually see this from about 100 yards away. It's an actual bullet shell that he put this LED in, used some epoxy, wired it, and I think they are just one of the coolest additions onto here. A little bit of bling. I don't know that they had any speed, maybe a mile an hour or two, but we thought they were cool enough to put on, and we want to thank Jer for hooking us up with those. Moving backward a little bit, we have Knight Rider headlights. Down here we have a set of halogen lights, and they're small. When you think of off-road racing, generally you're thinking of big, huge lights, annoying, heavy. You roll over, you smash them. Well, these lights here have been developed for ATVs. They're very small, they're very light. Guys on mountain bikes actually use them as well, and scuba divers have actually used a very similar setup. So they're really into the extreme motorsports. Extreme sports, actually. Up a little bit higher, mounted above those, we have Knight Rider's HID setup. They're a high-intensity discharge light. These things will blind you, and they really light the night up. In conjunction with this, we also have an HID helmet light that attaches to the side of our helmet and also runs off a battery pack, so we don't have to worry about drawing power from the machine, and the charge actually lasts a few hours. They're just an awesome product, and we want to thank Knight Rider for helping us out with those. Moving back to the controls, we opted to use Moose Racing handlebars in the 4-track spend, and they widen the grip on the Suzuki a little bit, get our hands out there a little bit wider, give us a little bit more leverage. I'm a pretty tall guy and have long arms, so I really appreciate the wider bars on this machine. Attached to these bars, we have Spider grips. They're absolutely the only grip that Team TPC Power Center would ever use. I've been using them for a number of years, and we love them. Becca out at Spider Grips has really treated us well over the years, and we want to make sure we say thanks to her as well. If we could move back to the front of the machine here, there are a couple things underneath it that I'd like to point out. And starting with the Elka suspension, we opted to use Elka's middle-of-the-road race series. It actually is compression and rebound adjustable. We opted to not use the high and low-speed compression and rebound. It's just another thing to figure out, and quite honestly, with a 600-pound utility, they're pretty tough to get set perfectly. So we opted for this. Dual-rate spring setup, front and back. They really take the hard hits, and the best thing, after 12 hours, because of the reservoir, we don't have to worry about overheating them. They work really well. We used the set last year, and we love them. Below the Elkas, you see that we have a different Aarms setup. For those of you not familiar, there's a company in Ohio by the name of World Class Racing Products that actually builds this piece. They actually changed the steering geometry on the front end The King Quad was plagued with a problem that we've kind of coined the term turn-in. The bars would unexpectedly turn to the left, to the right, can really seriously hurt a person. And although this setup makes it a little bit more difficult to turn the bars, we think that the safety factor and the fact that we don't have to worry about unexpectedly rolling the machine over because the bars decided to turn left or right was a reason enough to run these, and they're awesome. They have a really nice silver vein powder coat. They're very heavy duty, and the build quality of them is second to none. Moving outside here to the wheels, probably the baddest looking wheel from a company that's been around forever, OMF. And OMF actually starts with a Douglas wheel, and they cut the end off, put a scallop beadlock on here. These things are bomb proof. If you look how thick they are here, you hit something and bend one of these wheels, somebody's taking a trip to the hospital. They're very tough. They have the nice scallop design that actually throws the mud, and any time that you can keep the weight off of a machine, especially for 12 hours, it's going to be better for everybody. Speaking of weight, you see that we're running Maxxis All Tracks. Most guys in the utility class run Bighorns. We've decided that for 12 hours, we wanted to be as light as we possibly could. We opted to use the All Track because they're about 7 pounds lighter per tire than a Bighorn. So 28 pounds total that we're removing from this machine, 28 pounds on the suspension, on all the moving parts that we can take away for 12 hours at a time. That we are hoping that's going to lead to a lot less chance of breaking down, and definitely a lot less stress on the actual machine itself. Moving back a little bit further here, if you look, we have on our clutch cover here, we have Dalton, and this is where the guys at NYROC really helped us out. I've struggled with the choice to put a clutch kit in this machine. My teammates and I talked it over. There were some characteristics of it that we weren't super happy with, and we talked to the guys at NYROC, and they assured us that if you put this Dalton in, that those negatives would go away. And sure enough, those guys were dead on. The negative characteristics of very little low end, very little mid-range have gone away. It really has a nice hit, but it has it without raising the stall speed too much, so you're not getting a lot of wheeling with the machine. We want to make it as easy to hang on to and as easy to keep pointed straight as we possibly could. So thank you very much to Dalton. Moving back a little bit further here, you see that we're using the LRD torque exhaust on this machine. The torque exhaust on this particular machine, I think as far as looks go, man, I don't know that there's anything prettier than an LRD exhaust. With the black coating and the nice polished silver tip on the end, polished aluminum tip. We actually incorporated from Porsche Racing here. They decided that we would use some header wrap. We had a little issue at the 6 hours with a different pipe, and we actually caught on fire, and you can read about that in the article about this, but it surely wasn't the LRD, and we're really, really happy to have them on board. Moving backward, we have what I think is the coolest bumper on any King Quad. It's actually a double bumper. What it does is it incorporates an aftermarket Suzuki bumper, which is this piece right here, and we've mated to it a bumper that I had built for an old King Quad that I owned last year, and a company, or a guy by the name of Sam Ryan from Ryan's Fab in Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania, put this together for us. Basically built us some Nerf bars that we were able to remove the rack and actually support the fenders. And with this double bumper setup, we protect our Elka reservoirs underneath, we protect our exhaust, and we protect well, the lights. We're going to be racing at night, so that also is something that we're really concerned about. And we're looking for durability. I'm not too concerned with the extra couple of pounds that we've had to add with using two bumpers. We think that it will be well worth it in the end. Down below here, we're actually using Moose Racing skid plates, but if you've ever seen Moose Racing skid plates, they don't look like this. We actually got some help from Skip Porsey. He's one of the guys that wrenches on our bike, one of my teammates' fathers, and he spent countless hours trying to get this thing just right. We did a lot of trimming to try and keep the mud and everything off of the rear axles, and just did an excellent job we went with the less is more approach. Definitely some skid plate protection, but we didn't need it big and high and packing everything with mud. Moving up a little bit higher, well, you see, of course, you see our Elkas here. Also dual rates in the rear, dual rate springs, compression, rebound, and do an awesome job. Don't have to worry about overheating, any of that type of thing, just like the fronts. Moving upward, see our little plug right here. This is for Cyclops Motorsports helmet light. They make a really nice, inexpensive helmet light. Works good for racers, but you know what? It works good for guys that are going to use these around the farm too. Working at night, whatever way you point your head, you got a nice beam of light projecting, and it does a really nice job of lighting the night up. Also, Knight Rider, as I mentioned before, gave us a helmet light. We only have one of those, and since it's a team race and that has a battery pack, we opted to use the two. I will use the Knight Rider helmet light when I get off. They'll plug the Cyclops in from one of the other guys hopping on the machine. The last thing that I want to show you is underneath the seat here. I'm going to pop the seat off and have you take a look underneath. What we have here is DynaJets Power Commander, and what this piece actually does is when you add a pipe and you add an aftermarket air filter with a fuel-injected machine, it makes it really difficult to get any power without adding any fuel. And the fuel injection on these utility quads in general, aren't quite as sophisticated as one on a car, so they can only compensate so much. So what you end up having to do is add fuel to the mixture. And how this works is, this is one of their new USB power commanders. You hook it to a laptop or any computer with a USB drive or USB port, and you can download customized fuel curves. You can use some that you download right off of their website, or you can opt to play around with a fuel curve of your own. The guys over at NIROC have done some dyno testing with some fuel curves, and we've actually tested a couple of theirs, and they've worked very well. There's definitely a significant horsepower increase. It's super noticeable, and we're really happy to have them on board for this project. So I guess to cap this thing off, what we'll do is put the seat back on here. I'll start it up so you can hear that LRD purr a little bit, and we'll pull away and have you take a look at how the Dalton system actually works, how it engages, and thank you for taking the time to check out our King Kong, Suzuki King Kong, the baddest king quad on the planet.